Hello, this is Chiron's Cave, and I'm Aaron.
And I'm Susan. And we have a guest today, Jon. And
Hello.
he is he's in Atlanta currently. And so yeah, we're gonna have a good discussion today.
Right, and I have just met Jon moments ago. So, um,
Yeah. And
And
I'm excited about y'all meeting because I've known Jon for 20 years. So I've got old friend meeting new friend and similar interests. So I'm excited for us to talk,
yeah,
for y'all to meet.
cool. I wish I had. You sent me his chart on the cell phone, which I'm using,
Mhm.
so for this recording.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we've had the issue with the chart as far as putting it on the screen or not, and all that situation. So, but before we'll just play it all as we go. And I'm just interested, Jon, in, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of introduce yourself. Maybe just tell our listeners sort of just what do you do? What is your interest in our podcast? What brought you here today? That kind of stuff.
like Susan had mentioned, I've known her for 20 plus years. We go back far, rich history, and just apologize. I forgot to put my phone on vibrate, so took care of that.
Oh, I need to do that myself.
No, just, I hate to be cliche and played out about it, but just kind of a student of the world, gone through public education, went to college, failed out of college, got married, got divorced along the way, just kind of moving through life, moving into middle age and really wanting to make sense of the world around me and understand the chaos of my environment and just kind of if I can have a better sense of like how to process myself, then I can honestly care less about the everything else of it. So apologies if that didn't even make any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I'm a similar orientation as far as engaging with the world politically or whatever. Like, what are the because really the only thing we can control is our actions and our thoughts, right? We can't control other people. And so, like, in the political
Yeah.
world, it's like, and by that I mean action in society, right? You can't do better than just cleaning up your own house and be an example. And all the other stuff,
I
it's just anxiety provoking, really.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I've listened to the podcast and I've really enjoyed it. I haven't caught all the episodes, but I have caught episodes here and there. And one of the things that Aaron you've brought up in the past is Professor Jordan Peterson.
I'm wearing his shirt today. That's funny.
But like, just to go to what you're saying, like that man came to prominence off of what, 10 rules for living? Like,
yeah, 10 rules
clean
for
your
life.
room.
Yeah. 12
10 rules
12
for
rules.
life. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. 2 more. But
yeah.
like the simple aspect of like clean your space, manage your own interiority before you have any concern over like tax policy. How can I have any like fundamental opinion on tax policy if I don't know where my car keys go when I get home? Just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and to kind of bring it back around astrology is something I can't know Susan for 20 years without having 20 years of astrology floating around in the background.
Yeah.
And it's always been just part of our relationship and our interaction. And it's so much just a core of her personality. And
by
her
force, whether you liked it or not. Yeah.
And so just learning and understanding and processing, it's just really been, the more I learn, the more things kind of start to make sense as much as things start to not make sense. So
that's it. Yeah.
I want to talk about
definitely.
you guys.
Cool. Well, we've definitely been doing that, I would say, Susan, you and I together. I mean, which we're kind of at a place now where we're actually, me and Susan have only known each other for about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say it was November when we met?
Yep. We met like right at the end of November. I just finished a yoga training and and just synchronistically we touched down, and we've been getting to know each other, talking about astrology a lot
Yeah.
in the last year. And we've been doing this podcast for, well, it's been about 6 months.
Has it
So
already been 6 months?
I think so. Mm-hmm. I
Yes.
think. Well,
So
let's see. I think June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah.
wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. Yeah, this will be, I think, episode 26. I think.
We only have 6 more months before we hit stardom and fame. The goal was a year, right? We'll be
Right.
hitting stardom in 6 months from now.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we set out knowing that it was going to be a thankless year, pretty much. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
It's the star.
Oh, what deck is
Just kind
that?
of had that. This is from the Light Seekers deck.
Huh? No, I don't. I'm not familiar. Late seekers. Oh, light seekers. Light
Light Seers,
seers.
my bad.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Cool. Yeah, that looked like a pretty cool image.
Yeah,
I got the
it
star
It's
did.
a really
today
fun deck.
in my reading this
What?
morning. I got yeah, I got it for the outcome. The star. Interesting. Came up
Wow.
again.
And John, did you just pull that?
No, I
Yeah.
have that sitting around. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 different draws that I'm waiting to like do some academic like dissections of.
Mm-hmm.
And the star came out in the second pull of basically pulling 4 cards. It was a really intense pull. So I immediately pulled another 4 cards because sometimes if you get bad news or like harshly delivered information, you want it a little bit softer. Um,
It's a
and I
do-over. I think that's called a do-over,
a
John.
do-over. And so I pulled a do-over, and it's a much nicer way of essentially saying the same thing.
Oh.
So I'm working on kind of trying to distill and put together in a succinct, maybe 5-minute form, how this really jarring 4 cards of bad news is basically essentially the same as this, like, oh, this one really feels good pull of 4 cards. But ultimately, at the core of it, what it's asking of you is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
you're a student of tarot then? I mean, obviously you have a
I am
practice
a
at
student.
least. How long have you been doing tarot? How long
I've
have you been?
been doing tarot seriously for about 3 years.
Okay, cool.
But well, how about this? I got my first deck about 3 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it just kind of took off from there. The Light Seers deck was actually a gift deck that I received,
Hmm.
and that really opened up the inspiration, and one thing led to another. Got that deck. That's a lie. Well, no, I did. I received that one as a gift, but my first deck was actually this Angel Tarot
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
is tarot with angelic symbolism.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the tarot deck I used actually was a gift. The first tarot gifted to me, and it was gifted by Susan. So
Well, fantastic.
yeah, but I was
Yeah.
already
We had
using.
it.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you were already using the
Mythic Tarot.
the
Yeah,
deck, right?
the
Yeah.
old the new
Mm-hmm.
version, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted the older version because I thought the images, the drawings were better from what I had seen. And I was having difficulty finding a complete deck that was, not too expensive of the older version. And then I guess you had like 2 extra versions of that
Mm-hmm.
since you've been using the Mythic
Yeah.
Tarot since like the 90s.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I had to order decks to get replacement cards. You'd have to order the whole deck. So like over time, yeah, I just ended up accumulating a lot of them. And yeah. So I don't know. We've probably shown them before on the show, but John, so you can see kind of the old style of the tarot.
Okay.
I just pulled those 3, but so I was like, "Wow, did you just pull the star card?" And then like Aaron's reading has a star, but the synchronicities, I mean, the synchronicities of so much of this, and even like the synchronicity of Aaron and I, we were using the same tarot, the Mythic Tarot. That was part of like why we were like, "Oh, this is so wild," because it's not a real commonly used form. But then like the angel deck, John, that you have is used in conjunction kind of with like that's relevant for you and sort of the magic, like the approach that you take to the idea and concept of magic, right? In a
Oh,
sense,
well,
they
the entire reason I sought it out was that the angelic deck, this angel tarot, it's basically, it represents all of the major and minor arcana within the 70, was it 74 cards?
78.
72 cards?
The deck is
78.
78. Yeah.
Thank you. The deck is 78. So that'll tell you right there how deep my practice is. But always learning.
Yeah.
just no Virgo in
22.
your chart. It's okay.
22 major arcana is 22, and then the minor is what, 56.
Is 56. Okay. Well, held within that are the 72 angelic names of God used within the Shemhef operation, which is an incredibly high level, like kind of like a penultimate post enlightening magical operation where it's ostensibly taking, if you look at a tarot card as each individual card of the major arcana represents the soul's journey, like in a story wheel kind of cycle, and the evolution of consciousness and progression as you go around through it. Um, that all kind of comes together on the angel aspect to basically have an angelic representation of the 72 aspects of self that are all balanced out throughout an alchemical and Kabbalistic process to attain a singularity and awareness of one,
So
which is a really complicated way of saying, go ahead.
yeah, the number 72, I was just going to comment on because there's a lot of
Please do.
overlap with that number in astrology. But also it's the angle that makes up a pentacle or a pentagram. There's 72 degree angles that make up 72 times 5 being 360, I believe is correct. But the number 72 specifically bringing astrology in would be a reference to the precession of the equinoxes, because the ancient figure on the precession is that with the Earth's, that's the third great circle, and that it moves 1 degree every 72 years, precesses. So that's how we get to the great year, right? Because it's 72 times 360, and that's the number of years, which is like, I can never remember. It's like 21,000 something. 72 times 360.
I know what you're referring to. Yeah. No, that's 100% correct, and it was designed backwards. So, like, if you look at it from a Kabbalistic aspect, the 72 names of God are divined out of the precession of the equinox. But you can look at the architecture of the tarot, and it's like there's definitely supported on an academic level that the tarot, the zodiacal representation of tarot within itself laid out, also mirrors that same 72. So it's not necessarily an Ouroboros, but it's definitely a weaving.
Again, you right. Yeah, this
All
has
these
an
different
Ouroboros
sources.
on it. It's hard to see because there's a lot, but there's the circle is actually an Ouroboros on the shirt. Which is funny.
that's
You brought
awesome.
it up. You brought up Jordan Peterson because I was like, I put this shirt on just before we started, and I was like, I don't know. Do I put Jordan Peterson on? I was like, yeah, I'm putting it on. And then you
Oh
brought
my
up Jordan
gosh.
Peterson, not knowing you didn't know this was Jordan Peterson fan art, right? The shirt.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so that's kind of synchronistic, I would say.
That's what happens when you have a Hermes ruled Venus on someone's ascendant, right? Like the synastry of his Venus in Gemini on your ascendant, right? Like
Right.
the hermetic, Hermes is at play today. Yeah.
So yeah, because you're his. So your chart, so I'm not looking at it, but you're a Leo rising. And and I know you have your May 19th because my youngest son's birthday is May 19th. So you have my youngest son's birthday, and then you also have Mars Sun conjunction with Chiron, which my son also has, right? And he's 12. So I mean, but yeah, he's got his Mars sun is closer than yours. His is like I think 2 degrees apart or something. It's a pretty tight conjunction. Yours is 10, so it's barely an orb, but still, you have Mars sun. So I saw
Okay.
that and I was like, wow, and then your Sag moon, which Susan has a Sagittarian moon.
Okay.
So there's a lot of interesting synastry going on, synchronistically, I would say, with your chart, with all 3 of our charts, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
the astrology. So are you? So I guess you're interested. Your interest with us specifically in Chiron's Cave would be astrological, right? Like, John, as far as you're saying, you want to learn more astrology, and like is that? Am I getting that right?
No, it's 100% correct. I mean, not to like blow too much smoke like you guys, but hey, it's something that I'm interested in. It's people that are passionate and knowledgeable about the topic, and why not learn through that environment? I listened to the Barbara episode from earlier in the week, and I thought that was just fantastic. And I really got a huge kick out of it because you can tell with Barbara's background, Susan's background, and yourself, Aaron, y'all were able to talk like almost at a jargon level of professionalism that I didn't always really know what you were saying, but the enthusiasm came through in the energy of it. And it's like, honestly, if I stick with this and continue to study, continue to learn, this is something I can come back to a year, 2, 3 years from now. I'm going to know what the hell they're saying. And that's pretty damn interesting.
Well, I didn't even know what all the hell was said anyway. So yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I got lost in some of that too. So I mean, there is
Well,
that.
to
Well, I'm in
say
good
about
company
I
then.
will say Barbara is a very fast learner. I mean, she did not know anything about astrology, and she has mastered some of the like more complex, at least theoretical. But she's got the Gemini and Sag energy, which I've told John a little bit about his chart too, and it's like the when you have the polarity of the learning signs or the knowledge signs, you can pick stuff up fast. So she's good to have just started a few years ago for sure. But you'll get there, John, if you want. And there is a lot of overlap. I was going to see there is a quote by Jung that I wanted to read, and then just to kind of contextualize the conversation and maybe the meeting point a little bit between astrology and magic, and kind of and psychology, because all of those are really connected and interwoven. And to kind of go to that earlier notion of, to know thyself and that. So I'm going to read this. It's from The Secret of the Golden Flower by Jung, and he says, magical practices are the projections of psychic events. By means of these concrete performances, the attention, or better said, the interest, is brought back to an inner and sacred domain, which is the source and goal of the soul. This inner domain contains the unity of life and consciousness, which, though once possessed, has been lost and must now be found again. So, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, opening up into the magic and the occult, which, interestingly for me, this the past week I have like re-entered into occult study, um, specifically, um, looking for an actual, like dedicated pathway instead of just the typical Gemini all over everywhere, which is what brought me to astrology. My initial entry into astrology was I started reading the Golden Dawn book by Israel Regardie. It's basically the Bible for the Golden Dawn. And it's like 1,000 pages. And I got, I don't know, 100 pages in, and there was a lot of astrological symbolism, for the planets and the zodiac. And I didn't know those symbols. And I was like, shit, I gotta back up before I can go into this book, because I need to understand these symbols. And that was like 3 years ago. And I mean, all these books are all astrology, mostly anyway, and myth, but most of those books are astrology. And I've read all those books in the past like 2.5, 3 years. So it's just been this, I didn't know anything about astrology in 2020, 2, I think. I started with tarot and astrology. And it's just been book after book after book after book, just study, constant study. Then I met Susan and then we started this podcast. So it's like my life has been just digging into this astrology business nonstop.
Mhm.
And so it's been real fast for me, a lot of information. And I'm actually now even rereading a lot of these books because I started in the deep end and didn't know what I was, so,
Yeah, didn't you start like Liz Green's Dynamics of
yeah,
the Unconscious? Wasn't that like
yeah.
your first astrology book? Deep
Well, it's
End, yeah.
the first serious one. The first one was, The Secret Language of Astrology, just like a
Mm.
brief introduction to this to the whole, universe of astrology. Then from there, yeah, Liz Green. I think, the first book I read was, The Astrology of Fate was the first, like,
Ah,
um,
mm,
first Liz Green book that I read. So, and I think there were a couple more before that weren't Liz Green that I read, but nothing like too serious.
mhm.
And so, um, so do you want to, Susan, did you want to go over John's chart? Did you have that in mind today?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So Chiron's cave is you're familiar, John, with some of the thematic, topics that we cover and that I wanted to tell you guys that I just saw in this book, magical and ritual use of perfumes. It's such an odd thing because it's connected to scents and the use of perfumes and ritual from the beginning of time, but the astrology's in there. It's very Kabbalah heavy. It also has, but the definition in here, it says the Greek word, and Aaron, you probably know this, the Greek word therapeun means to heal or to heal, originally meant to serve the gods. I thought that was so cool. Thus, all healing takes place in a sacred context. Healing also connotes becoming whole. If you want to round out your psychological and sensual experience, use scents to stimulate the desired qualities. Okay, that part's not as relevant, but the idea of healing taking place in a sacred context and that therapy means to heal. I think astrology is essentially connected to healing. Chiron's cave is the goal, right? Hopefully that healing is somewhere in the mix of and the motive of and the goal of a lot of what we want to unpack and uncover. And so I guess I wanted to just throw that out there before we look at John's chart, because
Yes.
just like Deborah, just like Deborah, there has been, from what I know of John, knowing John, he's been in the last 3 years have been really transformative. And you can just look at Uranus and, moving through Taurus, and kind of over his Mars, his Chiron, his midheaven, his sun. I mean, your sun has been going through the Chiron, so you've probably tracked that a little bit, or through the Uranus transit. So, Chiron has been a very active archetype, and Uranus has been a really active archetype. And so I just kind of like healing and that type of. So I guess before we jump into your chart and talk about it, is there anything, John, that you want to ask or say or share? Put you on the
Um,
spot.
Well, I can say something real
Yeah.
quick. I want to kind of correct what I had said because Susan, you
Mm.
read that Jung quote and it was
Uh-huh.
opening the door to the occult and magic. And then I pivoted into astrology.
Mhm.
And I wasn't
Uh-huh.
intentionally not talking about what your quote was. And in
Oh,
fact,
no, that's okay. Mhm.
I've been studying essentially, I started studying the Kabbalah, a long time ago, but specifically again, I started it recently reading a John Michael Greer book on the topic. And, so like and I know John is interested in the occult and magic.
Mhm.
So like, I think,
Mhm.
obviously before we go into any of the astrology, which astrology is fundamental to the occult, right? Anyway, I mean,
Mm. Mhm.
uh, yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna bounce the question back to you, John, that Susan asked essentially because I was just correcting. Like I said, I didn't mean to pivot
Mm.
to another topic without even talking about magic. So I'm interested. What is your background with the occult? How long have you been interested in it? What systems have you studied? Obviously, you know, you've said a little bit about the tarot, so but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's just to piggyback off of you. Sorry, this is going to be insane to edit. I just apologize.
You're fine.
One, as far as like tarot and Kabbalah is concerned, I highly recommend Chicken Kabbalah, Lon Milo Ducat. Um, I think my image is all wrong, but
The chicken
this is
Kabbalah.
just a class. Chicken Kabbalah. And
Huh.
it's a pretty great text, and it really just kind of helps go through, break down the different Kabbalistic principles, different theories around the various sephirots, and just the basic understanding of also the interplay of the numerology and the construction of the Hebrew alphabet, the 22 characters of the Hebrew alphabet, and how those correlate to the different Kabbalistic intentions as well as the tarot correspondences.
To the major arcana,
So,
it's 22, you know, if you count the fool, you know, it's counted as 0, but if you count
yes.
the fool, then there's 22 major arcana cards.
You have
Hmm.
to. You got to count the fool. I mean, how else did we get
Yeah.
here? You asked about in my approach to everything. I believe that this is a really goofy reality that has a lot more to it than we're able to perceive, and that one of the core aspects of the human experience is that fool energy, that zero of the tarot, essentially being launched out of the void, out of the mouth of the Leviathan into this three-dimensional existence. Um, and I've spent the last 3 years intently, almost daily, trying to understand what that series of words means. Gone basically looking at astrotheurgy, looking at Kabbalah. I have to have a better and a more intense understanding of astrology to get beyond the elemental practice of, like, just lack of a better term, light work, white magic. Um, you have your elemental representations and what they can do and how that's all shown through the tarot, but you also have your astrological representations and what those energies mean, and those are also projected down and shown on the tarot. And the more that I learn about the tarot and the more that I learn about it through the lens of this like Jungian philosophy of the story wheel, and how it's just so many different systems stacked on top of each other that are all basically the same thing. The story cycle is the soul cycle, is the humanity cycle, is the universe cycle. And again, just through meditation, visualization, some of it is Kundalini yoga, some of it is a standing pole, shower meditation, some of it is just simple, intuitive movement. I've been in construction for 23 years. So I have a good amount of just physical ailments and strains and things like that. And long before I came to magic, I came to meditation, and just the consciousness of movement and the consciousness of feeling myself and feeling my body. It feels like that was important and necessary to even opening the door to feeling my mind.
Hmm. Yeah. And
So.
you had a physical purification process, right? Like healing in the last couple years with kind of changing your relationship with substances and
Oh,
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, as I was starting to get into magic and as I was really starting to study these different teachings and these different things, well, other parts of my life are really just going off the rail and just really getting like the more succinctly, and it was almost like the more I could buttress and build my ego, the more everything would just end
Uh-oh.
up falling apart.
Oh,
And to the point that one thing led to another. It's been, oh gosh, it's been 2.5 years since I've had any consumption of alcohol.
awesome.
And even, thank you. But even within that, in the first year of not drinking, way back in my mid 20s, I quit drinking for about 7, 8 years. And everything was awesome and everything was great. And like, it was just, oh man, that wasn't really the case this time. The first year after I quit drinking this time, physical ailments were popping up. My body just decided to quit on me. I had some leg issues. I had a knee problem. I had a back problem. Just giving up on that one substance, which I'll be real honest with you, when my leg would lock up, the first thing I would do is go get a six pack because you can drink enough, your leg will release. But that's not the healthiest way of
Yeah.
dealing with things. Um, Even after the first year, I hadn't even lost a whole lot of weight. I was almost 300 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Me
now
too.
I'm cruising at about 220.
Yeah. Me too.
So,
Wow. Yeah. I was at 285 when I quit
but,
drinking.
well, congratulations.
Yeah. I just hit 4
So,
years actually, November.
hell yeah. I hear there's more to come.
Yeah. It was for me. I mean, it was a full 3 years before my mind dried out and stabilized. So it was constant changes for in my overall mental, psychological, spiritual, even like being before it like even kind of plateaued out a little bit and like things started getting stable, you know, like I could
Phew.
in a whole being kind of way, right? Like it took 3 years for me to just stabilize. But I started drinking when I was 14. And then by the time I was 21, 22, by 22 when I got out of the Navy, it was every day. I drank every day. Like for 20 years, just about. Like a full 20 years of pretty much if I didn't drink it was cuz I couldn't for whatever reason for 20 years. And it
Mm.
wasn't for me it wasn't alcoholism like when I quit for instance. I just cold turkey. Didn't go to a meeting after 20 years, right, of drinking every day, essentially. I just quit cold turkey, didn't go to meetings, and I haven't drank since. So, like, an
Mm.
alcoholic, I would argue, can't really do that. Or it was a miracle, or both, which probably it was just both. I don't know. Maybe I was an alcoholic and it was just a miracle.
Mm.
Well, I would just friendly pushback on that is there's only one way to solve that question, and I don't encourage you to find out.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah, I know. No. My
we
wife
could, we
made
could
some.
answer this for you, but we don't need to.
No. Well, I already know if I think I know what you're saying. And my wife made some kombucha like a year into my sobriety. And kombucha
Yeah.
can get like 1% alcohol. And I took a sip of that kombucha and felt the alcohol permeate like instantly. And it scared the shit out of me because I was like, my body knew that. It like, I know this feeling. You know what I mean? I know this substance. And it was immediately flushed through my whole body. And I at that moment I
Mhm.
was like, I can't even drink kombucha now. Like
Mhm.
I'm scared of vanilla extract for crying out loud. So, you know,
Yeah. Wow.
No, 100%. I guess the only thing else I have to wrap up on that to like pivot out is that throughout that first year and through I had the dumbest injury that resulted in a pinched nerve in my lower back. And moving through that, and again, it was that coming off the alcohol, coming into sobriety, coming into this magic, the esotericism of everything, trying to process the ego, trying to process just my position in myself, let alone the world, like we were talking about earlier, and having just this incredible pain, this hinge issue. Well, look, I'm not a Kundalini yoga teacher, so I'm willing to say, and you guys can cut this if you want to, through my personal practice of Kundalini yoga, I was able to experience a healing of my own just by going through a 40-day process and following a very simple instruction of posture and breathing and muscle tension that over multiple weeks I was able to pack enough energy into this impingement that it woke me up in the middle of the night, man. It sounded like a gunshot had gone off. My legs went completely numb. Oh, well, I'll find out in the morning if I'm paralyzed or not.
so It comes with the territory. So anyway, before we lost you, you were talking about your Kundalini experience. So did you want to get back into that?
Yeah, just to wrap it up, I'll be as succinct as possible, is that through the practice and through the meditation and through like the conscious focus of energy into this area of my lower back that had been causing me problems, it allowed for this like spontaneous release. And once that had happened, all these other factors, all these other things in my life started to fall into place. And whereas even though I had quit drinking over a year ago at that point, I wasn't experiencing the weight loss of having quit drinking. And the weight started to come off. The health issues started to improve. Obviously, as you're losing all this excess additional weight, things like the leg issues started to take care of themselves. My knee hasn't even tried to lock up in about 2 years. And it's all through the conscious engagement and the awareness brought on through it, like through taking on the Kundalini practice, that it allowed me to kind of see how all these other energies and intentions were affecting my like manifest reality.
So
Yeah.
how did you get involved in Kundalini? Was that via Susan
Susan.
too?
Yeah, that was via
Okay,
Susan as well.
cool.
But I wasn't aware, or I wasn't like participating in the 40-day, like whatever you were doing exercise wise and like what you took on
No,
for
that
that.
was through
I mean, I knew
Life
that you
Force
were doing something
Academy.
like that, but I didn't. Oh,
That
okay.
was
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
Life Force
Jai Dave.
Academy. Jai Dave, I mispronounce his name and call him Dev. But Jai Dave and his work out of California and doing the as like the January, February, beginning of the year prosperity focus. And it set my prosperity for health
Mm-hmm.
because you got to be healthy to have anything else. And if I don't have health, what am I going to do with wealth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And that
yeah.
was considered kind of earth magic, right? You called it earth magic at the
Yeah.
time. And also, with like Kundalini yoga, it is a form of like energetic alchemy in a sense. Like that it would fall probably in that branch of like yogic alchemy or like Eastern versus Western concepts of magic. I mean, Eastern yoga, particularly Kundalini, which has like the tantric tradition and is has forms of like not divination but alchemical aspects. It kind of falls in line with some of these more metaphysical sciences, right, that were not so it wasn't so strange to understand reality as having a strong metaphysical component, hundreds of years ago back, but and that just makes me I was gonna mention too about, and I wanna hear the rest of what you were gonna say, John, too, because I
Oh
think you
no,
had a couple
I'm
of things to
good.
say maybe, but there's this, um there's this quote in the same book that I read from earlier, and it says, "Because so much of ancient science was not empirical but metaphysical, the practices of astrology, alchemy, and magic correspond to the processes represented on the tree of life." And the evolution of this eclectic system culminated in the 18th and 19th centuries with the formation of such groups as the Rosicrucians, the Masons, and less well known occult groups such as the Order of the Golden Dawn, which is what you were referencing earlier, Aaron. And I know, John, you're familiar with what's his name? Rigardi, I
Israel,
think he was
yeah,
French.
Rigardi.
And it says these groups synthesize the disparate elements of the Western mystical tradition into a coherent whole. So, in just kind of like clarifying these layers that we were talking about and how astrology fits in and alchemy, and that idea of like healing is tied to this this understanding of metaphysics, and the interconnectedness of that.
Yeah, so the Kabbalah. Um, I mentioned I've been looking at that this week, uh, and through several of John Michael Greer's books, but his last book he wrote is called Revisioning the Tree of Life. And there are some things in the introduction, which you can get the first couple chapters for free on the Kindle, which is what I've done. I haven't even bought the book yet, but I read like the first, I think, 3 chapters. And then yesterday, and then today I went back and reread it, because it's like some of the stuff in there in the introduction is just, that's kind of what I want to talk about now, because it's specifically related to the Kabbalah and the occult in general, in the
Yes.
history of it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so there's this, most people think the Kabbalah is Jewish, right? That it's a Jewish conception. So mystical Judaism, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's been the belief, I think, in modern times. And so the first actual Kabbalistic writings, right, were from 1150, right, AD. But that specifically is going to be the first mystical Jewish writing on the Kabbalah specifically. Okay. So the thing is, the Kabbalah's roots actually go back to Pythagoras directly, not indirectly, directly go back to ancient Greece. And this is how. And so I have a few points that I've written down and a couple quotes of Jon Michael's along the way from this book, the revisioning of the Tree of Life. Okay.
So cool.
So the Kabbalah. So this is a Jon Michael quote. The Jewish version was created in the 11th century in rabbinical circles in southern France. Right. So Jewish. So I think those are the Cathars, I think were what they were called. The southern Gnostic. It's really Gnostic. So then that's the second part, right? So the inspiration that those people in those rabbinical Jewish people in the south of France, right, in the 11th century, their inspiration was drawn from the flowering of the Gnostic tradition. Okay. So, which the Gnostic tradition, right, originated in the Hellenistic Greek culture. So Alexandrian Greece, right, is where Gnostic and also Hermeticism are both a product of Alexander and the Hellenistic period. Okay. So, but this is where it gets really, really like, when I read this, I was just like, wow, Jon Michael Greer is one of my mentors, just all by book. I've never met him in person, but I have corresponded with him briefly. Anyway, he's been since like 2007. He's been from pretty much the beginning for me with the occult. Very important figure for me. Jon Michael is. So I have a lot of respect for him. Anyway, the Sephira, right, is the Hebrew pronunciation of a Greek word. Sphaera. I don't know. It's Sphaera. It's the Greek word for sphere. Sphera, I think is probably what it is. So Sephira is actually the Hebrew pronunciation of a Greek word. All right. Gematria is the Greek. It's from now. Apparently, scholars disagree, right, about the word gematria, on which Greek word, not that it is Greek, but which Greek word it originates from. So the argument is between the Greek word geometria, which is the Greek word for geometry. So geometria, or grammateia, which means having to do with writing. Scholars are divided, right? But gematria is what is gematria? Well, that's the standard Kabbalistic term for the mathematical analysis of Hebrew words. Okay. The greatest of the angels in the Jewish Kabbalistic literature, Metatron or Mitraton, does not have a Hebrew name. Okay. Doesn't have a Hebrew name. His name in Greek is Metathronos, which means before the throne. So it's a Greek deity. Okay. That angel. And so then, and I'm almost done tracing this back. So the tree of life, right, second century Gnostic circles were already dealing with the tree of life in the second century, a full 900 years before its appearance in the Jewish tradition. The Gnostics already had the tree of life. Okay.
Wow.
There was a Chinese tree of life, the Tai Jitu. Neo-Confucian philosopher Zhao Dunyai from 1017 to his dates are 1017 to 1073. Sure enough, there's an image of it. It is a Chinese tree of life from the 11th century.
Wow.
Okay. So, and then this is one of the JMG quotes, John Michael quotes. Western occultism is simply Middle Platonism dressed in wizard robes. And I'm almost finished. So behind Plato is Pythagoras of Crotona, more than 2 centuries before Plato, right? Because Plato essentially studied Pythagoras. So via Pythagoras, the Kabbalah has its roots in ancient Greece and Egypt, because Pythagoras studied in ancient Egypt. But he also was from the ancient Greek mystery schools. So Pythagoras combined ancient Egyptian mystery teachings with ancient Greek mystery traditions. All right.
Wow.
So the tree of life, right? The original tree of life was the tetractys, which is fully Pythagoras. It's Pythagorean. It's a triangle made of 10 points, right? And there's a diagram. I'm gonna have to talk this out, right? The diagram of the tree of life is generated by a point, a line, a triangle, and a tetrad or a tetrahedron. Okay. And you can see it clearly depicted. I mean, I can put it up. I drew the diagram. You can see it, the point, the line, the triangle, the tetrahedron. And if you look at the tree of life, you have a point, a line, a triangle, and then there's actually in the middle, here's an octahedron, which is the pyramid, pretty much, the top part of it. But then down here, you have a tetrahedron. The tree of life is so basically the tree of life, the Kabbalah are originated with Pythagoras, ancient Greece, not Judaism. Judaism is a very rich, important strain and tradition and branch of Kabbalah, right? But it's not originally a Hebrew creation. And to me, being, a Hellenistic, polytheist pagan, that's music to my ears, right? So, and then lastly, and I'll finish up with this because I just knowledge dumped a whole shitload, I know.
No, it's awesome.
No, that's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah, so then this is JMG again. Kabbalah is a living tradition and not an embalmed corpse, right? Because his point is not that, what's ancient is better. It's a living tradition, right? It changes over time. We amend it as we grow and change as a spiritual being, as a collective, even, right? In modern times, it's not an embalmed corpse. I feel the same about astrology.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but what we have here literally is that the occult in the Western tradition, and even beyond into the Eastern traditions, it's got roots in and it comes from Pythagoras, Orpheus,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really, really beautiful explanation, because even as I was looking through and I wasn't even sure of the origin, I sensed that it went back further than Judaism, but I didn't know what the connection to Egypt was. So you just answered like thousands of years worth of questions for me about that point of origin. Beautifully laid out. Yeah.
Well, that's Jon Michael Greer. I that was just me taking notes on the introduction to this book.
Oh, okay. Okay. That was him. Okay. Well, he just laid it out beautifully.
Yeah. I synthesized what Jon Michael said.
Fair enough. Right.
Just to give credit where credit's due. I mean, I appreciate you appreciating
It's
my
very humble of you.
synthesis, you know.
I appreciate your synthesis. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
That's my
mhm,
Virgo Jupiter
yeah.
coming out again.